Hello, I hope you're having a fantastic day. This video is actually a part 2. Previously, I made a video called Easy Branching Dialogue, Twine to Unity System, and this video got a few thousand views, which is actually quite a lot for this channel, and I've been receiving quite a few emails and comments on this video. Like, at least 4 different people have reached out to me in the last week, asking for the same exact thing, so I decided I would just make a specific video for that, which is this video, which is basically, hey, you know, this is a great tutorial for understanding the technology behind my transfer system, which will turn Twine into a format that Unity can easily parse. However, people have struggled with the implementation details of that. So basically, how would you, from start to finish, nothing skipped, complete beginner, absolute, covering everything, how would you get a Twine story into Unity using the technology that's provided here? So starting with basically completely from scratch, with the exception of the scripts that are provided in this tutorial, the part 1. If you haven't seen that already, go check it out. It'll be linked in the description of this video. Those 3 scripts, we're going to be creating something from scratch in Unity, and we're going to do it probably as fast as we can, okay? I'd love to get this done in half an hour, so let's jump into it, okay? So, well, I guess we should start in Twine and just make a short little story for us. A little Twine situation, please. And let's make a new story. This will be example. I don't know. Ah, shit. What did I just do? Oh my god. Now you see why I pre-record all my videos, right? Because I'm a fucking goof. So what are we going to do here? I think we have to say start on the start node. So here we'll say... oh, I guess the title doesn't really matter. So this is just the start node. And then here so the beginning of the story will be... so somebody was asking how you would make something like a Bandersnatch. And I know that's in Netflix. It's this show where you can, pauses and it lets you do questions associated with videos, which we might do as a second version of this. But in part of that video, there's this narrative about, you could choose which cereal to eat, right? It's sort of like a simple choice. And so I think that's a great place for us to have this story play out. So basically, Mom comes to the kitchen holding 2 cereals. Let's say, I don't know, what are 2 cereal names? Maybe, oh, whoops, this is falling over. Maybe Cheerios and Frosted Flakes. Does that work? The thing is falling apart. It's a mess. All right, so she's got Cheerios. Is that how you spell that? And we'll do it like this. And Frosted Flakes. And then we'll say, which do you choose? Frosted Flakes. Which do you choose? Question mark. All right, so that's the idea there. And then from there, we'll have 2 branches. So let's say I go with the Cheerios. Or maybe I'll choose to do the Frosted Flakes. Frosted Flakes. Bop, bop. All right, great. And then within Cheerios, we'll have different stuff. So this is just a very basic branching narrative. So we'll say the Cheerios are not very delicious, but quite healthy. Let's say that. Not a very entertaining story, I'll admit. And then what will we do now? Let's say you'll cry. So based on that, the player will choose to cry. Okay, and then I guess just the opposite will be for the Frosted Flakes. With the Frosted Flakes are quite healthy, but not very delicious. But not very delicious. So the Frosted Flakes are and so because they're not very delicious, you're gonna cry also. Okay, and that's a nice way to bring it together. And as sort of if we take a step back for a moment, this idea is called the it's called a beaded story design, where you have these beads, which are these sort of central points that the story will align to. So if you can Here, I'll draw you something really briefly. But let's say you have a node in a story, right? And it starts here, and then there's all these branching options. Can you see that? It's not high definition. Maybe I should do this in Paint. All right, fuck that. Let's go to Paint. All right, so let's say you are writing a story and you've got branching dialogue. Okay, this is very important when you're doing this, otherwise you're gonna get in a mess. So you have the main option, which is, hey, what kind of cereal do you want to have? And then you branch out, Cheerios, Frosted Flakes. And then maybe from there, you branch out again. You say, oh, the Frosted Flakes with milk, soy milk, or orange juice or something. And then from here, you might branch out twice again. Okay, suddenly you've got this crazy situation where your story has like 4 different endings. And that is something you can resolve, but it's going to just keep going, right? Like exponentially. And so what you want to do is have a decision point where maybe... regardless of if he chose that or if he chose this, he eats the breakfast, and then we can bring the story back into one node. And that's very important. That way we don't have like literally a million endings. If you want to remember, you might like sort of memoize this or write it down somewhere. You could record this variable, like, save it to a Boolean somewhere. And for Unity, that could be something like player prefs. And that way you can remember, okay, they choose the Frosted Flakes, so you can remember that for later. If you need maybe trigger a conditional statement later on. So when you do this a lot, you could see it sort of starts here, and then it goes out, and then it comes back, and then it goes out, and then it comes back like this. It starts to sort of look like beads, and that's why it's called a beaded pattern. If these were all to be laid out, it sort of look like maybe like a pearl necklace or something, right? It's just like a whole bunch of beads. All right, so that's the idea of the beaded pattern, okay? And it's pretty essential for this sort of like branching narrative dialogue if you're gonna not go crazy about it. All right, and then the last tag will be end, and then maybe here we say you cry. All right, so that's our story finished in 7 minutes, and what we're gonna try to do now is get it into Unity as fast as possible. So we need the in Tweedle story format, which may already be here for me. Change story format. In Tweedle, okay, yep. So test, okay, great, so there it is. So we copy that. Okay, so that is basically everything we did in this tutorial, and now we're gonna jump into the next thing. So this is a good segue, and now we're gonna start a Unity project. So let's do this. 3D, I guess. And this will be the simple story. All right. Unity by default always puts it into another folder, so we're just going to put it over here. Simple story. Ra-da-da-da-da-da-da. All right, and we're doing it. We're making it happen, people. I'm also going to need to download those scripts. So there's a lot to do here. The main thing that you're probably going to want to customize for your branching narrative story is what is the UI going to look like, right? There's a ton of ways to do a nice UI. Doki Doki Literature Club has their UI. Some other UIs you might want to look at are, what's the name about the lesbians playing baseball? I forget about that game. Lesbians baseball game. What is that called? Butterfly Soup. That has an interesting dialogue system at the bottom there. What else? There's Fallout. Fallout New Vegas has an interesting one. Mass Effect has a pretty iconic UI for branching dialogue. But whatever you choose, you're going to want to just design that. I would recommend having a canvas overlay. So you go into UI, you'll set up a canvas, which basically just renders objects on the screen. And then we can add objects to that. So we'll have a UI image. Okay, and you'll see this image is kind of centered. So if we double click on this, we'll see it zoomed out here. And we might actually be behind it. Let's see, if I move it left, it goes right. Okay, great. So we're on the wrong side. So let's just spin around and walk it back like this. Okay. Yeah, And we're only going to have dialogue in this game, so we're going to keep it simple. So here's what we'll do. We'll just make it a nice fat thing like this. We'll give it a color that looks like we set. We tried a little bit, so I don't know. Well, I don't know. Let's do like a little yellow hue, something like that. And then we're gonna want to have. Well, there's a lot of ways we could do this. I think it would be nice to just have the text on the top, and so this is whatever the player is going to read. So when it says like mom brings the cereal or whatever, that's going to come here. So this is the text to display for the current node. So we'll say that. And when I say node, just so you understand the terminology there, this square is a node. So a node has a title, text, and choices associated with it. This node has 2 choices, and this node has 1 choice, just to be explicit with the terminology there. So I guess if this is the node display text, I'll just call it that, text node display. And then we're going to have some response options. So to do that, it might be prudent for us to have sort of like a list of buttons that they could choose, where each button will display the text associated with it. So let's see how we can do that. Well, what we can do is we can add an image to sort of go around all those buttons. So I'll have this image over here on sort of the bottom. And I'm not adjusting for scaling, which is its own lesson, probably something we could talk about in the future. So this is sort of the response options. We'll make that maybe a blue. And okay, so this is the image. So I'll call this is just, well, this one I actually want to be a parent of the other guy. So this should be here. And this will be the BG yellow. This will be the BG blue. Just keeping it simple like that. And then here we will have the buttons. So we're gonna have a bunch of buttons in a vertical list. So we'll have a vertical layout group here. And then we will throw down an image and then put another image. Okay, cool. So you could see how, well, maybe you can't see it just yet, but these are how the buttons are going to be displayed on top of each other. However, they look pretty bad. So let's try to fix that. So the buttons are probably going to need to be quite a bit thinner, and they're going to need to be pretty wide. So how can we make that happen? Well, if we control this child's width and height, well, maybe not quite. Well, yeah, you know what? We want some spacing. And we'll add in some padding. Just put 10 on all sides. Okay, cool. So what we have here is 2 white buttons for the different options that you can choose. And we'll put some text in that. But what's nice about this layout group is if I duplicate this, then boom, we just have to spawn another image in here, and we'll have 3 options, which are dynamically sized to fit within this blue box, which is very convenient, especially when you might have a story where you've got 2 options sometimes, and then another time you might have like 5 options. So it's good to create a system that's a little bit more on the dynamic side for that. All right, so this is going to be image response, or actually we'll make this a button. So I'll call it a button response option. And we'll put some text in there as well. So I'm using Text Mesh Pro, or I mean, it doesn't really matter. We could use the normal text thing. Oh, get away. Go away. Do I have to import that stuff? Oh, shit, I think I do. Okay. We'll just use the normal text thing because it's not a big deal. All right, so here we have the text. So this is basically the response option. So response option text. So here's where it would say, oh, Frosted Flakes, or if you want to choose Cheerios, the other one will say Cheerios. All right, lovely. So, and if there's only one response, it'll span the whole size. And you could also make the text scale appropriately for that. So there's a lot of ways you could do that. Okay, fun. So let's duplicate that. Oh, shit, that looks terrible. What happened? It didn't scale well. Let's adjust that again. Here, we'll put it right against the boundaries here. And let's try that again. So this is what it looks like fully expanded. And we can set the size to auto size. Is there a way to do that? Best fit, same deal. Though that is way too large, so we should set the max to maybe, I don't know, 20, 30, 20. Let's go with 20. All right. And yeah, so that's our different response options. Awesome. So I'm going to actually prefab that so I could dynamically spawn it. Prefab is basically you're just saving a copy so that you can paste it later, sort of like creating clones. And yeah, now I think it's time for us to just get into scripting because the UI is done. So we'll call this the dialog canvas, which might give a little hint that the dialog controller will be here. So I'll call this dialog. Oh, actually, for my script, I called it the dialog viewer, and I like that. So let's keep that naming convention, and then we'll double click this. And now it's time for us to import our scripts. So so what are we doing at? We are at 15 minutes. So we did 7 to get the story going. We did 7 to design the UI. And I think within another 7, we'll have the code implemented as well. So a little bit of everything. We're the designer, we're the writer, and we're also the engineer today. That's exciting. So let's jump over here. This is the dialog viewer. And what I would like to do is copy in the example dialog viewer text I had. Now I just pulled this straight out of an existing game, which I thought, maybe somebody could just delete the parts and keep what's relevant for them. But, some viewers will have difficulty negotiating that decision process, and I completely understand, which is why we're going to be making it very simple. So we also have a dialog object. So let's open that. Where is it? Dialog object? I don't see it. Dialog object. Okay, great. So here's the dialog object class. And that is this one. So let's copy that one also. Copy. And then we have the last one, which is the dialog controller. And then we'll just have to resolve our errors, and we'll be shipshape. Dialog controller. And I don't really remember if the dialog controller needs to be in the scene or how that works, but we'll figure it out. I obviously haven't looked at this code in a while, but I thought that would be good because then you can get my authentic hot takes as I tell you my code is terrible. All right, cool. So let's just see what compilers we have and sort of address that. Okay, there's only 2. Well, that's not too bad. So we have slow typer, which is basically a little bit of a sugar to make the text slowly type out. Completely unnecessary for us. We're not going to need it. However, so it looks like that was the text reference. So instead of referencing a slow typer, a text title. Okay, I don't think we're going to need a title, so we can remove that. But message is associated with this yellow text. So what do we call that? The node display. So I'm going to rename it here. We'll rename text message to text node display. Node display, just so we have consistent naming there. Well, this is basically the yellow. And then that is going to be of the form unityengine.ui.text. Okay, lovely. So this is saying if you click it, speed it up. It's not relevant. We don't need that. If you click on the display text, nothing will happen. What else is going on here? So this seems to just be clearing stuff. So I think the equivalent would be just to basically just set it to nothing. That's effectively clearing it, I would guess. So this is like some fancy stuff. I don't think we need any of this. So let's just pull all that out. So this is basically saying when the node is entered. Okay, so when we get to a new node, what do we want to do? Well, this is showing the response options. Oh, I see. So this is deleting the previous response options. So we have parent of responses. Okay, well, we should probably assign that sooner than later, but I assume that will just be the parent of our different buttons. So we're deleting all the old ones. Then we are creating new ones. Then we are getting the component called slow typer. So in this case, we're going to want to get the text component in the buttons we're spawning. And we're going to want to set that text to our current response display text. So I realize I'm probably not doing a good job of explaining this, and I apologize for that. So I think what we should do is just try to resolve the errors, and then we'll go step by step to sort of talk about the problems. And then the continue button, not relevant for us. Don't need any of that. Don't need any pictures or sprites or anything like that. So we fixed the compilers. Let's see how that goes. Just try to pull out stuff that we're not going to need. Okay, great. So now we got some null object references. So here's the thing. We have a bunch of boxes here. Oh, you can't see that. My face is in the way, so I'll move my face over here. So over here on the corner, we have a bunch of things that we're going to need. Or actually, let me just drag this up. I can't drag it up. What's going on here? It's being difficult with me. All right, so I'll put Mia back over there. All right, so the first thing is the parent of the responses. So if, as we talked about, you know, we're going to create these buttons here. We're going to be cloning them, and they're all going to be children of this BG Blue parent. So I'll rename this the parent of response options, just so that it's very clear what that is, and we're going to drag that in. The next one is the prefab button response, and these are actually our buttons, but we need to also add a button component so that they have that they can render raycast when the button clicks on it. They'll register that as a button press. So we're going to need to update our prefab if it hasn't been done already. And now we're going to want to drag that in. So because we're going to be deleting this and then cloning new ones, we don't want to get the one in the scene. We want to get the one here in the assets. And then the other thing is the text node display. So that will be this guy right here. Image memory and button speedy progress are both, I think, not going to be necessary for us. It's just extra stuff, not relevant. So we'll just save that. And so now we have a much simpler version here. And is there anything else? Well, I guess how do they get the how do you get the story? You know, like if I wrote my little Twine, how does it get read here? I'm not quite sure. Well, there's probably some other elements too. We talked about the dialogue controller. So where should that go? So this is a mono behavior, which tells me it needs to be inside the game. So I'll add that in. This is the dialogue controller. We'll just put that in there too. And I see, so here's where we have a Twine text asset. So let's create a, let's create a TXT here. So we'll just grab this folder and we're going to create a little text document. And we're going to call this simple story .text. So here's where we go back to part 1 where we created that lovely little story about eating the Cheerios or the Frosted Flakes. And we're going to copy and paste that in here, save it. So now we've got that. What's going on? So we got that text document, so we're going to drag that into the dialogue controller. And is that it? Could that be it? I don't know. Let's push play. Oh, I got some nulls. So what's this about? Object reference could not be set. What? What's the line number? 25. There's nothing on that line. The controller, I see. So it's trying to get the component called dialogue controller. So it's assuming that it's a sister component to wherever the dialogue viewer is. I am going to pull it out. That way they don't have to be on the same game object. So I'll just put this right here. It's basically trying to find a reference to the dialogue controller. So that's not a problem. I'm just going to set it up like this so we can drag it in. Oh, what the heck? La 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 la. All right. So now the dialogue viewer, and the dialogue viewer has a slot here for the dialogue controller, so we can drag it in. And that'll fix our first error. And is that it? It may be. Oh, no, not quite. All right, so what's next? So now let's jump into the dialogue viewer. And it's saying initialize dialogue. It's having a problem with that. What is the problem it's having? Object reference not set? Okay, that's interesting. Is this a dialogue? Well, yeah, it looks like a dialogue controller. Oh, let's make sure we're clearing that on play because we don't want to be looking at old errors. Okay, great. So we got a new error, which is length cannot be less than 0. Okay, so let's see what's that about. So it's saying that one of the titles is too short. Okay, interesting. Did we have a node with no title? No, it doesn't look like that. Okay, so something in this parser text is being a little problematic. So what we should do is debug it. So let us, and there may be like a rule or something that I didn't abide by, but if I just set a breakpoint here and attach to Unity, we will see now how I would debug live on the fly. So we'll jump in there, get that going. Okay, great. So I'm going to, well, let's see what the current line is. So I'm going to add this as a watch variable, which means we can throw it right here so we can see what's going on. Okay, so here's the node. Start node, blah, 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 blah. Start. Mom holds in the kitchen. Okay, looks good. And the title end is 11. The title start is 0. Okay. And then the title that results from that is start node. Okay, seems fine. I don't see a problem there. Okay, let's push continue again. So now we're on the Cheerios start node. I have Cheerios, not a problem. Next one is Frosted Flakes. Frosted Flakes, okay, that's not an issue either. This one's Cry. So let's see, the start is 0. Okay, and the title end is -1. Okay, so interesting. So that's clearly our problem. It's not finding the end of the title, which should be the Y. And why is that? Well, one of the reasons is we don't have any destination for this node. And I think that's actually our problem. I think we always have to have a destination. So that is probably just a little rule I broke. So let's go in there and let's see if we fixed it now. And basically the reason why I'm thinking it might be a destination is because I could see it was looking for these brackets, and I know those brackets surround response options. So I'm guessing that's probably the problem. So I just rebuilt the story. I copied it, and I'm going to paste it on top of the one we have here. So now you'll see that cry leads to X, and X is just blank. There's nothing there. Well, I guess I'd have a problem there too, wouldn't I? Because then it would read X. So let me delete X. We don't necessarily need an X node. Instead, this will just lead to nothing. So it just kind of looks like this. Well, let's see how that goes. Let's see what happens there. So we'll push play. Okay. Is it working? It's kind of hard to see anything. If we zoom out, well, do we have any errors? It doesn't look like it. The text node display is not displaying anything. Okay, so it seems like maybe it parsed correctly, but it hasn't auto-played. Could that be the case? It would seem so. All right, so initialize dialog. When is that getting called? All right, so it seems like this class is initializing correctly, but it needs to sort of have a driver in order to start the show. So we could either inject that into this, or we can. But we could potentially add a driver class, like a director or something. I'm just going to add it in here. So this is definitely breaking the one role principle, but I think that's fine. So this is, we're going to start the dialogue. All right. Oh, we don't want to have exclamation points. I don't want to scare anybody. So we start the dialogue. So we've initialized it. And what would we like to do now? So is there anything associated with like a start? Any sort of way to start it? Well, there's get start node. Would that work perhaps? I'm not sure. So if we get the start node, how would we like tell the system to start? That's sort of what I'm trying to determine now. We can say, so here's the viewer. We can initialize the dialog. We'd say on node selected. Okay, so this will choose a response, and I guess this will call the on node entered text. So we want to say on node selected, and then choose response. So I guess what we want to do is sort of enter the start node. So does the controller have a start node from the beginning? Controller.start node or current node maybe? Okay, so we can get the current node. What does that return actually? It returns, oh no, everything's broken. I'm pushing F12. Oh, I overrode F12. Okay, I just removed my my IntelliSense, so this is actually going to be a little bit of a me issue. But normally your F12 would would bring you to your thing. I just have it overwritten right now. How do I remove my shortcut key associated with F12? Okay, I want to remove this. How do I do that? How do I do that? Sad. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. All right, well, I'll have to get myself out of that situation later. We'll just have to go there manually. So get current node. Okay, returns current node. Okay, and when is current node set? When the dialog is initialized. Okay, cool. Is this called anywhere else? It's called here. Okay, great. So we initialize the dialog. Then we can apparently get current node. I'm curious why that didn't trigger on node entered. Or maybe it did. Did it trigger? We didn't see it? I'll just set a breakpoint there to see if we missed it. And if not, I will want to look at the current node. So var current node, just to make sure I guess it has what we would expect. So let's just start that up again. So basically, it seems like it's reading the data in. We're just now having a little bit of an issue to see if it's correctly displaying. So we are getting an on node entered. So it might be nice to just display a little debug there. Debug.log. So we'll just say, entering node. Maybe just the title of the node. That might be useful. Okay, so it's setting the text to, so it's clearing the text. Interesting. So that's probably not what we want. We probably want it to display the new node's text. And then it's removing all the previous response options. It's spawning the new ones. And the new ones, it's going to grab the component in the children called the text component, which I can't look at right now, but I think that sounds right. And it's going to add a listener to those, and it's also going to display the current response text. Okay, well, I mean, that all sounds correct. Let's give that another try. So we just set it to display the text on the top. Okay, great. So we're seeing that. That's awesome. So I see mom comes into the kitchen holding 2 cereals. Which do you choose? However, I'm not seeing those children being spawned. Why is that? Well, let's just figure that out. So we need to make sure that those buttons are being spawned at the bottom there. Now, why could that be? Well, let's make sure that it notices there's 2 response options, because opened the wrong game. Let's make sure that it sees there's 2 response options. How are we doing on time? All right, so we're at 32, which means we're on 15 minutes of coding. Just taking a little long. Sorry about that. We're right about where I would like to be to finish this. I was thinking it would take about half an hour. Okay, cool. So here we are on the first node. Interesting. So it's set a delegate. Okay. So it's set a delegate, so it wants this to happen later. But we don't need to wait. We'll just do it right now. So we'll just do that. And let's see how that goes. All right, cool. That looks exactly like what we want. The only problem is the game view is like, what the hell kind of crazy scaling is this, right? So here's the main camera. And it's just scaled like a wild wizard. So we need to fix that scaling. But once we fix the scaling, I think we'll be in a good place. So let's look at this stuff. So screen space overlay. I think that's fine. We probably want this to be scale with screen size. Yes, much better. It's on the screen. Okay, cool. And yeah, I'm just gonna make it. I guess that doesn't work. Well, you know what? That's fine. we're just gonna put it like that. All right, cool. So here's our story. Mom comes into the kitchen holding 2 cereals, Cheerios and Frosted Flakes. Which do you choose? Well, let's choose Cheerios. The Cheerios are very delicious, but quite healthy. Oh, they're not very delicious. All right, so we cry. So you cry. And then we have basically just the X there. It doesn't lead to anything. So implicit there, we passed a tag. Oh, we didn't. Okay, so we want to have a tag there that says like end as a sort of sentinel for us to say, hey, you know, when you read the end node, don't display response options for that. Instead, just, you know, say quit or something like this. You would read those tags. Where would you read those tags? Do we have a tag handler here? Well, you could probably just add it right here. So you could say, you know, if new node dot tags dot contains, and then maybe you'll do end, then I don't know, end the game or something like that. Then debug.log end. All right, so but you know, you could log that, but probably you want to like display the text differently or something. End the dialogue, I suppose, after they say that final message. And if we choose Frosted Flakes, they're quite healthy, but not very delicious. Oh, wait a second. It should be the opposite, but it's fine. Okay, cool. So that is our super simple scene, super simple story in about half an hour, a little bit less, if I didn't get stuck on a few things. So basically, I did have to, ooh, this is not related. Basically, it is a little bit of just simplifying the text a little bit. So I know I did edit this dialog viewer considerably. I'm going to copy this and upload it for you. And I think that should be enough to get everybody going who messaged me. If you're still having questions, there's a part of the video that you were confused by, please just list a time code in your comment, and I can jump to that part of the video and just further clarify any points that I may have went over or browsed past. I'd be happy to help you out, okay? So good luck on your storytelling adventures, and if you make a story using the system, please let me know because I'd love to play it. All right, I'll catch you guys later.